Hi, Redland family. Thank you so much for joining us today for this Grace Groups Extra. Today, I interview Maina Mwuara. Maina actually used to serve within our state convention in Maryland and Delaware, and he was a great resource to Redland as well. What he now does is he works as a freelance author and gets to write about a lot of stories and interview a lot of people. So he has a unique perspective on America, on Christianity, and how we can respond during this time. I hope it benefits you as you listen to our interview. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I am joined by Maina Mwuara. And Maina, welcome. Good to see you here.
Good to be with you, Kevin. Man, I love how technology allows stuff like this, man.
Yeah, me too. A lot of people don't know it, but you actually have a background with Redland Baptist Church. Do you want to share that?
Yes, I do. I was like, I have a background. It's like, where in the background is Redland Baptist Church here? It's like, this is great. Like, Kevin, if you put a background behind here, this is awesome.
No.
No, I do have a background. First of all, it's a great church, obviously, but Bobby Cook was on staff there one time, and now here in the South now, and so I recommended him there, and then through a series of unique God-sized events, man, God led you there, Kevin, as well, man. And then I've stayed in your youth house a couple times. I've spoken there a lot. Bill Archer and I are friends. Don't hold that against me. And Mark's a great pastor. He's an incredible man. The whole staff is there, in fact.
Sure is. Yeah, we're blessed. But Maina really is the reason why I am at Redland. So if you need someone to thank or blame, he's the guy.
Correct.
But tell you what I wanted to ask you, because this coronavirus has been going on for quite some time, and I think Christians have really found their feet to try to help deal with it. But I was curious, when did you realize that coronavirus was going to become such a dominating issue for our society?
You know what, Kevin? I would say for most people, I didn't really follow it a whole lot, Kevin. I mean, there are little bits and pieces, I would say, back in November. I think, when I started seeing some stuff on it, but it really became real to me, I'd have to say, Kevin, when friends of mine, started being impacted by it in one way or the other. And so I would technically say the last 2 weeks to the last month, man.
Yeah. It kind of took us by storm as a society. And,
it did. It was almost kind of like you went to bed one way, and Kevin, for me, I remember it being very real here in Atlanta anyway, when the governor said, "Hey, we're shutting down schools," and that's only been 2 weeks, Kevin. I mean, for us here, and so it became very real when the schools shut down.
Yeah, same for us. And speaking of which, my kids are upstairs right now. I think I've done all the safeguarding I can.
Oh, I know, Kevin.
We'll charge them, but you never know what's going to happen.
I get this working from home and living at home and doing school at home. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, I tell you, that's one of the ways. I'll ask you right about that now. How has it impacted your family?
Oh, man, Kevin, it's tough. Man, I mean, just in the sense of that you're doing life at home, really, Kevin. Typically on a Friday, my wife would be at work, and our daughter Zion would be at school, and I would be doing this probably upstairs in my office area, but Zion's up there doing work right now. So it's kind of like, at the same time, it's one of those things where it's been the best case and the worst case. I say best, Kevin, in the sense of, man, we probably spent more family time than ever before, man, at least in a long time in any way. While at the same time, you're with your family 24/7, although you love them, you're literally with them 24/7.
Do I love them that much, right? That's the question I got to ask.
So there's a lot going around here all the time the last 2 weeks.
Man. Yeah, I'll tell you, here's my goal, and the goal that I would share with all parents is eventually this is going to be over, and my kids are going to look back on this time.
Yeah.
I want them to look back with fond memories to say, you know what? I'm actually glad we went through that. That was a neat experience for our family.
Yeah, that's been, I'd say, one of our main goals too, Kevin. And I'd also say one of our goals also is to look is for Zion to look back and for us to look back too and go, and God moved in some incredible ways with some goals that we were either searching for or some things that we needed to do, Kevin, or the same time that we prayed more than we ever have before.
Yeah.
We're really asking God to really show us some things that we've been praying for a long time, man.
Yeah, I agree. I've had some of the most meaningful conversations with my kids during this time. It's been incredible. And yeah, we've gotten on each other's nerves, but that's our ace in the hole. We're good at that.
Yeah.
But God's given us some new experiences too. It's really great. Now, Mina, you have a unique kind of job. I don't know that I can explain it well, but you freelance. You have an opportunity to interview a lot of different people, right?
Yeah. And it's pretty neat some days, Kevin. There are some days that life is not so great, but
Right.
like, this morning I was talking to Gary Chapman before our time together, in fact, man, about the five love languages.
What is his love language?
You know what? It is words of affirmation.
Huh? Okay.
And that, yeah, I never would have guessed that. And his wife's love language, so we talked about that too, is service. And so, he was talking about how she loves to cook and show appreciation for them at home. At the same time, not to veer off on this, Kevin, but he was really during our time together. He was talking about and expressing, our kids and our spouses' love languages to them, man.
Yeah.
In this season. And so I thought that was very, very interesting. So typical weekday, Kevin. This week is not so typical probably, but no week has been probably the last 2 weeks.
Right.
The typical week, it could go from interviewing him, which was great this morning, to former Attorney General Jeff Sessions was this week. And
Yeah.
so you run the gamut of all kind of people, but it's an incredible ministry that I love doing though.
And as you've interacted with these people lately, what is the general sentiment that you get from people about this COVID-19 pandemic?
Kevin, I think people are wanting to be more connected than ever before. And that to me is it's an incredible, as someone who loves to connect, I know you do too, it's incredible to just see that, man. I mean, to just really sense that there is this feeling of, okay, let's look deep within, and let's seek out, how we are, how we're not
Yeah.
connecting even. And at the same time, I think there is this huge need for people to get back to the center of who they really are in Christ. And a part of that, Kevin, is our families, man. And that can be good or bad. I know everyone's not, living in a great situation where, for the first time probably ever, they're with a spouse or are within a situation where they're having to live with people 24/7, literally, who in times past, they could escape or run from, but they're having to really kind of face that. And my prayer for them, Kevin, is that they would find healing in the midst of all this.
Yeah. That's well said. I think there's an opportunity for healing, an opportunity for families to come together. Even those closing words of the Old Testament, where God promises He's going to turn the hearts of fathers to their children and the hearts of children to their fathers. This is a time when that can actually be fulfilled. It's really a cool thing. So, what positive responses have you seen from the Christian community as they've engaged culture during this time?
Man, Kevin, I and I know we've got to be very mindful that we're living in a real situation where people are sick, people are losing their jobs, and that's a very real reality for a lot of people. What I've also seen though is people on the other end who want to help people walk through that real reality. And so whether it is, a friend of mine who lost his job yesterday, I mean, and literally they just called him up, Kevin, and they said, hey, we can't afford to pay you any longer. We're laying you off today without pay, Kevin.
Wow.
And, he put it on Facebook to be praying for his community of friends and stuff. And Kevin, by the end of the day, I called him up and I said, well, how did things work out? How are things going? He goes, I have 3 job interviews next week by people in that community. And number 2, he said, man, people were chiming in going, hey, we'll leave a meal on your door, or we'll leave this on your porch. And to me, those are ways I see. Then we have a church here in town that I'm very familiar with, Kevin, that they're doing drive-by prayer time, man. And they have seen cars pull up in the parking lot like never before just to pray, man.
Wow.
I really believe, man, that we are on the brink of revival here, man. I think God is using this in such a way that I cannot explain, but that He can. And I think if we'll keep our eyes open and our ears open, man, we could see revival here, man.
Wow. That is the thing to pray for, and the thing that we need to stay is with sensitive hearts. So with that in mind, what is some of the good advice that you've heard that can help Christians know how to respond right now?
Yeah, some of the best advice that I've heard so far is to just listen. Just hear people, Kevin. I mean, everything becomes real when you know someone who is going through it clearly. And I think we would just listen. We may not know someone who's going through it physically, or in a hospital, or dealing with the virus itself, but we may know someone, and we probably will know someone here soon, who has lost a job, Kevin. I mean, and who's going through the reality of, well, what is next? And the best thing that we can do, I think, is obviously to pray for that person, but honestly to also listen to them in this time, man.
Wow. Very good. And what is God in your heart these days?
Oh, Kevin, I'm very analytical at times, especially with what I do with interviewing and writings. I like seeking out answers, Kevin, obviously for a living. I think that's what my job title is going to be: seeking out answers. Kevin, it's kind of what I love doing.
That's
And at the
marketable.
same time, yeah, it's probably marketable in this day and age. At the same time, though, Kevin, God is just showing me. I mean, I look at the book of John where Jesus is dealing with Thomas, man, and we talked about this yesterday a little bit. He's dealing with Thomas, and Thomas is doubting, man. Is Jesus real? So I'm having to ask myself, as someone who is very analytical and loves seeking out answers, I have to ask myself, will I still believe God, even if I can't see the scars in His hand, man? Will I still believe Him still? And, Kevin, I want to say, and I think I can say this, 95% of the time, the answer is yes. There have been times the last 2 weeks where I have wrestled with, well, God, I know You're real. I've gotten across that path, but God, what are You doing in all of this? And I have to be reminded, Kevin, that God still does miracles in 2020, man, and He is still at work. And, if we can believe the resurrection and the virgin birth, Kevin, the rest of this should be easy, to be honest with you. It should be very easy, Kevin, because those two are huge.
Right.
I mean, those are the big ones. And so I'm really asking God to just show me, man, where do You see me at? And Kevin, it's been one of those things. I remember asking God that last week. Just show me, where do You see me at, God, in all this? And what is my role in this? And, Kevin, like 2 days later, I was interviewing the governor of our state, man. And so I'm having to ask God to show me and to use me with what He's given me to bring about peace in our world, man. Because I think as Christ followers, we have been called to bring peace in the midst of chaos. And this is chaotic right now, Kevin.
It really is. And the church has been such a force for good over the years. Its history is really good in this way. And I know you talked a lot about believing, and sometimes, like Thomas, we don't always get the answers, but are we still willing to believe even if we don't have those answers? You talked about revival. Do you think there's a main message that God is trying to teach His church in all of this?
Yeah, I honestly think that the main message is that He can be trusted, man. He can be counted on. I mean, I love, Yeah, Kevin, in John chapter 20, verse 29, I love the passage. Then Jesus told him, this was Thomas, because you have seen me, you have believed. He goes on to say, blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed, Kevin.
It's us.
It's one of those things where that's us, man. That he had us in mind. That, man, do we believe? And I think our world is not just asking, do we believe, but are we showing a world that's in chaos, clearly, that we believe that he can move. Kevin, the worst thing that can happen to us, this is the worst thing, man, is that we die and go to heaven. That's the worst. I mean,
the worst case scenario.
That's not a bad worst case, Kevin. I mean, that's a great worst case. And so we are going to get through this, man. And although there are times, there have been some nights, Kevin, and I usually sleep well at night, typically, but I haven't been the last couple of weeks just because, there's a lot going on. As I'm talking to way more people than I ever have been, Kevin, usually, where you carry that to bed with you sometimes. And I'm having to remind myself that, man, we have been called to bring peace. But it's like that old song that we used to sing as 4 and 5-year-olds. I think we need to sing it even now, Kevin. That
I'm ready.
He has a whole world in his hands, literally, man.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, he does. And so, I think as believers, I think we are being challenged on, do we believe?
Yeah, that is good. As Christians, we pedal in that peace you mentioned. We pedal in hope. Those are the things that we get to bring to the world as we are faithful to him. Maina, I want to thank you for the time you've taken just to share with us. It means a lot to our church. So thank you again. It really is something special.
Man, I love y'all's church. Please tell Mark I said hello. And of course, Bill Archer Bill and I have war stories together, being in the trenches of doing good ministry. And of course, Kevin, I got to say, man, it's always good being around you. And you have helped me a lot in some of my projects, man. And I think you're a great writer. You know that already. But, man, thank you so much, man.
Well, thank you. Again, appreciate it. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
I will do.
All right.